Hello everyone, welcome to 3DDesignAcademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 9 of the Mercedes-Benz E-Class Coupe project. Okay, so in the previous lesson, we spent some time trying to work out the highlight over here, but I ran into some problems. And this is the result of the highlight problem. You'll see that this is actually going up. So there are several problems with this, and one of them is if I just hide this surface for a second, I made a draft surface over here, and you'll see that this is actually becoming a little bit tighter as it goes down over here. And because this is actually a 3-degree surface and this is a 2-degree surface, I think that's causing a clash here too. The problem is, in order to get this highlight to dive down gently, I actually have to push the surface in. So let me just show you guys what I mean. So I'm going to grab these two over here, and I'm going to trim this one over here, and I'm just going to align this one, and I'm going to say G2. Now, right now the highlight is actually climbing back up, which is not good. And if I were to, let's see, let me just grab a CV over here, and let's say I push this in. Now the highlight just should dive down nicely towards the bottom, as you can see over here. But the problem is it doesn't really solve the top, and also if I push this in, let me just grab this surface over here, it creates a bigger break over here. The wheel feather is pretty flat, but this is a little bit different from what's actually in the car. So this is something that I would have to address. So let's go ahead and try to address all of those one by one. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take a look at the CV structure over here, and I think I actually need to solve this one before I continue. Now, one of the reasons why I try to do this is because I try to, get this out a little bit to create a little bit softer transition. But as a result, the CV structure is not good, so I'm going to get that resolved first. So let's go ahead, and I'm pretty sure I had a curve over here. Let's see, object display visible. Well, if I don't have a curve, that is fine. I can just create a new one. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see. Oh, I do have a curve, but I think it's an old one, so I'm just going to toss that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's just turn all the CVs on like this and look at it from the top view. Let's see. Okay, so you'll see that there's a little bit of zigzag going on, so I'm going to resolve that. So I'm just going to grab the proportional modification, mouse sensitivity of maybe 10, and I'm going to grab this one and this one like this, and I'm just going to push it up using my right mouse button so that there are nice and negative on both sides. Now this one I probably want to make it a little bit flat, and I'm just going to check the direction. So I'm just going to snap a curve over here. Now this curve, this CV is a little bit above that, so I think that's pretty good. And let's go ahead and take a look. Now the only problem with that is because I moved the CV, this is going to dive down a little bit. So I do have to make a little bit of modification, but at least this is going to, at least the surface structure is a lot better than before. And because, I moved because I actually moved the entire surface, I think this break is not as bad as I thought. So I think this is not too bad right now. Okay, so let's just check the highlight. I think a little bit of improvement. I still see a little bit of dip over here. Okay, so another thing that I can do is, because this change is actually very subtle, the problem is if I were to push this in, that's going to create a problem. That's going to improve the highlight over here, but I don't want this break to be more significant. So what I'm going to do is, actually, let's see if there's, okay, so there's no history on that, so that's good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this surface is based on this curve over here. So what I'm going to do is, actually, let's hide this for a sec. Now, I don't know if I explained this, but you'll see that there's a little bit of difference between here and here. So I'm going to make it a little bit more subtle by pushing this outboard and making this a little bit more even. So let's go ahead and grab this curve Actually, let's align it. I'm going to align it. It's going to be position. I'm going to hit the top of the surface and I'm going to align it to the curve that we, well, basically all the history is based on. Let's grab that and I'm going to probably blending. Yeah, blending should be on, extra 1. And let's go ahead and push this out. So I'm going to grab the curve. Actually, well, why there's so many curves over here? So let's try. Okay, so that one is for this surface over here. So I'm going to say invisible for now. And let's go ahead and push this out. So I'm going to just push it out until it is somewhat even between the top and the bottom. Now this is going to allow us to make the bottom a little bit more subtle in its transition. And I think the highlight should be a little bit, should have a little bit better characteristic. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm just going to make sure. Okay, so the history is still on. And let's actually go ahead and trim this out. Okay, so the highlight, there we go. You'll see that it's overall it's dramatically improved. Everything's diving down except for a little flick on the top. But I think, to be honest, if I were to just say that that's a pass and just move on, I think that would be actually not bad. So the transition is a lot better and it's a little bit, so basically it looks like the wheel flat and the this, I guess, fillet over here is actually pretty good. So I would actually say that this is a pass, and that I think it should have actually helped with this one. Now, another thing that I can do in order to help this is actually make this into a degree 3 surface, because the problem is, because this is a degree 3 wheel flat, whereas this is a degree 2 surface, there is going to be a very subtle difference between the two. And because we are trying to really refine the highlight over here, I think that's going to help out as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to grab this one, the draft surface over here, and let's go ahead and untrim this one over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to just extend this back and I'm going to hit it right here. Okay, so you'll see that it's actually, even though it's a constant draft, that there's actually quite a significant difference between the surfaces. So what I can do is, well, let's do this. So actually the easiest way, I don't know if I really want to do this, but well, let's go ahead. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the curve and surface on both like this, and let's just delete the construction history on this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, let's go ahead and project onto this one. I'm going to say project from Y, and since the surface is a little bit long, I am going to move it up just a little bit, or well, I can push this down too. Let's take a look. I'm just going to grab these 3 surfaces. I think I'm just going to push it down until this point. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to extend this one over here. I'm going to snap it here. I'm just going to extend this one as well, like that. And let's go ahead and do a trim convert. So I'm just going to trim convert this surface. The CV structure, well, this is natural, so I guess I'll just leave it. This surface, on the other hand, I am going to hide it just in case I need it later. So I'm going to say hide. I'm going to just put that there, and let's. Okay, so now what I can do is I can just make this into degree 3 surface like this. And whatever this shape is, I'm just going to align. So I'm just going to grab this one, this edge. I'm going to align it to this one over here. And blending, pushing influence to the max. And well, maybe blending I'll turn on. And I'll just make it a 2. And that should help with the highlight over here. Now, the reason for this is because, well, basically everything has to be complementary, and this ensures that it's perfectly complementary between this surface and this surface. So let's go ahead and project onto this one again and see if this helped. So I'm just going to grab this one. I'm going to say align. It's going to be not position, but G2. I'm going to say edge. And let's just check the highlight. I still like the flow over here. I think it's pretty good. I do think there's a little bit of break, but I think it's a lot closer than before. And let's just check the highlight. Okay, so now you'll see that it's constant dive down all the way through. It's looking very, very nice. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much done. To be honest, I know there's a little bit of subtle break, but I also see, well, probably not in this picture. But I do think there might be a subtle break here as well. And if I really want, yeah, I think it's diving down a little bit and it's becoming a little bit flat. This is probably inevitable because of the wheel flat right there. There has to be some transition. And if I really want, what I can do is, let's just get rid of this one, and I'm going to say duplicate on this one, and I'm just going to make sure that it's aligned. It's G2 over here, and I can just pull this edge out just a little bit like this. And let's go ahead and do align. It's going to G0. I'm going to align this one. I'm going to say blending on. It's going to be 1. And even that tiny little bit helps with the transition. So I'm pretty happy with that. And in order to make this even closer, what I can do is I can just pull this CV out at the bottom. So let's see if that helps out with this section over here. So I'm going to say just invisible on this one, and I'm going to untrim this piece. Oh, why is, okay. Let's go ahead and untrim it. That's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to see if I can just make it right on the spot. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to duplicate this back edge over here, and I'm going to just use a stretch tool to snap this curve here like this, and I'm going to see if this will create a perfect alignment. So I'm just going to pick the surface, and I'm going to align it over to this one. Blending will be on. Let's just have a blend factor of 2. Okay, and let's go ahead and see if this helps. Okay, so it looks like the history is gone. That's fine. I just have to realign it. So blending will be turned off, and it's going to be G2. It's going to edge over here, and well, I think it needs a little bit of flick towards the outside. I think it might be a little bit too flat. I think that's one of the reasons. Okay, so what I can do is, because we already have history, I can just push it back just a little bit to the side so that there's a little bit of dive down like this, and that looks much better. Okay, so this is very, very subtle, but I think the result overall is very good. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's got a nice subtle dive down over here, and it's looking even more parallel here, and I feel that I can probably just push this back in. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to pick the CV because it's a little bit more horizontal. Let's go ahead and push that back. So that's looking pretty good. Now this is a lot more like the actual car. So pretty happy with the transition. Now this took a lot of time, but this is all part of a refinement that's needed if you're to make a very good good surfacing. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So I'm just going to project this one from the side, and I'm going to trim this piece over here, and let's go ahead and align this surface again. And I'm going to say partial. There we go. It's going to be edge. I think that's good. Okay. Now this one was a little bit easier to deal with because there's a little bit more significant break here. So it doesn't require the amount of subtle transition that is needed for the front. That said, however, I think the highlight looks pretty good, so I'm pretty happy. Okay, So let's go ahead and work on more surfaces. Now, for this transition, well, I think this might need an update first. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this one. It's called multiple spans. And I think for this one, what I'm going to do is, well, let's go ahead and make it more. Let's do this. I'm just going to grab Freeform Blend. It's going to be G0 and position on side 2. I'm going to grab this edge and I'm going to just update it using this one. So it's going to edge align that over there. And this is more complementary, follows the shape a little bit better over here as well. So I'm going to say explicit control to make sure that we can, let's see, looks like degree 4 works. Still got a very nice highlight flowing from the front to the back. And let's go ahead and fill this one as well. Actually, you know what? For this one, I'm going to start lining this up so that we can run a fillet through here. And the reason for that is, well, this transition is there's supposed to be a fillet running through here. So I think it might be a good time to start putting a little bit more details in and see how it works and see if we have to do any more refinements on here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and actually delete. Well, this one I think I can leave. All right, so let's go ahead and put a curve here. So I'm just going to strike a curve from here to here like this. Wherever this, well, I guess this doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm just going to do a line over here. It's going to be G2 onto this side like this. And I'm going to reestablish this surface over here. So let's go ahead and, well, because we already have this edge, why don't I just use a square? So I'm just going to do a square, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 is going to be curvature, explicit control on. And let's see. Now this curve probably needs to travel a little bit more. Auto scale G2 on. I'm just going to push and adjust a little bit more so that the CV structure is a little bit more even. Okay, so I think that's good. And now actually I'm just going to move this up as well so that it's a little bit better. It's a little bit more, I guess, structured. And let's go ahead and finish it off with a, well, actually, because we got history to play with, and I don't think we're done playing with this one. So let's go ahead and line this over here like this. Edge align. It's going to just G2 on one side, position on the other. This should actually create a very satisfactory highlight over here. Okay, so I think that's good. To be honest, I'm not. Oh, okay. So I think, why is the CV structure like this? Let's go ahead and, okay. So I wonder if it just needs a little bit more data. Maybe it does. So I'm going to increase the, okay. So that's good. At least it got curvature. Now, I don't know why the transition over here is a little bit abrupt. I think. So I probably need to play around with it a little bit. And let's check. Well, I don't know why it's all rising up. I wonder if it has some. Okay, so I'm going to try and collinear option 1. Okay, so that's a little bit better. I don't know why it's doing this, but okay. So if that's okay, so let's just rebuild it using a square. So, oh, actually, that's going to probably break the CV structure over here. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm just going to use a line. I'm just going to snap it over here. It's going to edge a line over here. And it's going to edge a line over here. Like this. And that should. Now, I still don't like the transition over here. So I probably need to do a little bit of refinement. But at least overall, we got the basic patch shape. So let's go ahead and fill it a little bit more. Now, before I do the final refinements, I think I want to fill up the surfaces first, so then I know what I'm playing with. So let's go ahead and fill this up. Okay, that will be turned, collinear will be turned off. 2 actually needs to be curvature, but I don't think it really matters as of this moment because we're just trying to look at the highlights and their direction. Okay, so highlights not bad. I don't like the abruptness of this piece over here. So one of the things I can do is probably just move this a little bit or give it a little bit more acceleration towards that side. But that's for a little bit later when we do more refinements. But let's go ahead and fill this one as well. Actually, for this one, I'm pretty sure I can just do a Freeform Blend. So it's going to be, let's see, G2 on one side, side 1, G0 position on the other. And that looks pretty good. Okay. So I like the overall highlight, just that there are a few areas that I probably need to do a little bit of refinement on. Okay. So let's go ahead and I probably rework this one. So let's just duplicate this edge for now. Now this side, I still have to put the rear before I can do more refinements. So for right now, I'm just going to fill this up with a square and see how the highlight acts. Now, okay, so that needs a little bit of work. The only problem with having this direction like this is because of the location of all the CVs. I think that's actually making, yeah, that's actually moving the CVs a little bit too much upwards. And that's actually creating a little bit of a harsh transition between this one and this one. So I think what I need to do is, I think it might be better if I just have the direction go this way. The only problem is if I were to fillet this, yeah, but I think it's necessary. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm just going to do a Freeform Blend over here. It's going to be, let's see, default here, and I'm going to say connect ends. Okay, so that's going to create a little better transition over here like this. And let's go ahead and get rid of this one. And I'm just going to project here from Y. I'm just going to trim this side and just do a Freeform Blend for now. Like this. Now it's got multiple spans, but it's not necessary right now. I'm going to fix it later. Well, actually, with the degree 5, it's only got one span, so that's not bad. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and try to fix this one. Okay, so I'm just going to do a Freeform Blend here, and it's going to be connect ends right on this side. It's going to be default over here. And let's go ahead and modify range. I'm just going to hit this point over here. Now, the only problem is if I do something like this, it's not going to achieve a positional continuity over here, as you can see right now. So I will probably need to extend this surface and see how they intersect and try to work on a better solution. But as far as the transition goes, this is going to, I don't know if it's because it's radial, but this does create a little bit better transition. That's however, it's got a million spans. So let's see if I can reduce some of it. So I'm just going to align this piece over here like this. And let's go ahead and push our influences to the max. I'm going to see if I can reduce the number of spans. 1 is probably too little. Let's do 2. Okay, so it looks like 2 works. The only problem is that the CV structure is a little bit off. So let's go ahead and fix that using square. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to turn explicit control off. That fixes it. The only problem is that the CV structure on the ends are not good. So explicit control on again. And let's add a span. The only problem is with the explicit control, it doesn't add the span in the right place. So in this case, I think what I need to do is actually delete the construction history over here. And I think I need to realign all the CV structure. So I'm just going to use planarize all. Let's see, view base, I'm going to actually change that to best fit. Oh, okay, so it looks like view based is necessary. Let's pick nothing. Let's go planarize hull again. View based. Why is it not lining up? Let's delete the construction history. Oh, there we go. I think the tool just needed to be reset a little bit. Okay, so that highlight looks good over here. I mean, it's really following the direction as it's doing the same thing as the car does in the picture. So pretty happy with that. The only problem is transitioning this side over here. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to extend this piece over here and see if it creates a nice intersection. So let's take a look. I would say it probably needs to transition over here. Okay. So unfortunately, I don't think it's creating the desired section because right now it's a little bit too short. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try and copy paste this piece over here, and I'm going to untrim it. And I'm going to extend it just a little, oh, actually quite a lot. And let's go ahead and do hide unselected. Let's go ahead and trim this one. Okay, so I'm going to say extend on this side, like this. And I'm going to just do a freeform blend with the larger extended piece and over here like this. And that's going to basically show us how it's let's take a look. That's going to show us how this surface intersect to each other. And as you can see over here, the CV structure is, well, actually this is flowing quite well. The CV structure is not exactly the same, but I would say it's close enough. And it looks like it's probably going to dive down somewhere over here. Let's go ahead and extend it and see how that looks. Yeah, so it looks like it's extending over here. So with a little bit of refinement, I think this is going to give us a pretty decent result. The intersection point, yeah, it needs a little bit of refinement to pulling the CVs here and there. I know it's going over here like this, but when I do a freeform blend between the two, I think it's actually going to give us a pretty good surface. That said, however, I think let's go ahead and just trim it out. So I'm going to actually, oh, looks like there's a little bit of positional continuity problem here. Okay, so looks like there's a little bit of positional continuity problem here. So let's go ahead and, well, actually I probably might be better to just make this a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and untrim, extend even a little bit more. And let's extend it this way. And I'm just going to trim it like that. And let's do a freeform blend between this one and this one over here. Okay, so that's now that's looking much better. Okay, the only problem is right now it's got a lot of spans, but that's okay. This isn't the final piece that we're going to be actually using. That said, however, let's go ahead and try to line up the CVs a little bit better. Hey, you know what? Actually, I'm going to leave that for a little bit later. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just intersect between these two. I know there's a little bit of flick over here, but that's okay. I think I'm actually going to snap a curve right here to just cut those out. So let me just make it a little bit similar in section between these two. Now I'm just roughly cutting it so that it's easier to see. This is not going to be the final intersection that's going to be used. So let's go ahead and pick these two surfaces, project with the curve. I'm going to trim over here. These I'm going to get rid of. Trim over here. Why is it saying that short? Let's take a look. Well, I'm going to just extend it a little bit like this. It could just be the curve and surface, or it could just be not touching exactly. Looks like that might be why. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And this one, I'm going to hide it temporarily. Okay, so that's actually not that bad. And let's run a fillet to see how that looks. So I'm just going to delete the construction history on this one. This one's okay, and let's go ahead and do a chord G2. This one, I would say let's start with 100, form factor 1, and see how that looks. Okay, so I'm just going to run the fillet. It's going to default on both sides. Okay, and now I'm just going to say edge align so that it actually trims over here. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't. Which means I probably have to do this manually, but at least we can take a look at how the intersections are. So let's undo. Now, unfortunately, it does have a very messy CV structure. So let's go ahead and do this first. Looks like this one also needs to be. Okay, so right now, what I need is just a temporary solution. So I'm going to say default here. Okay, so that looks good. And I'm just going to trim this one. Okay, so unfortunately, it looks like it doesn't. All right. Well, I was going to look at the highlight and see how this is supposed to all flow, but looks like it's not letting me. So I would say I probably have to do a tube. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hide all the curves for a second. I'm going to say invisible, and I'm going to use a tubular offset. I would say 100 is not a bad idea. So I'm just going to do that, run it all the way through like this. And I'm going to trim this one. I'm going to trim this one. And I'm going to just do a freeform blend between the two. I'm going to say default on this side. This one, I would say edge align. Well, this might not be the best idea. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. Actually, let's just extend this piece like this. No, that's not. Okay, I'm just going to the edge line. I know there are a million spans over here, but let's just do connect ends for now. I know it's super messy over here, but this is just to see the section. So after this, I'll do a major cleanup to make sure that everything is looking good. Okay, so looks like it's a little bit heavy, a little bit leaning towards here. So I probably need to move the tangent line a little bit below so that it's a little bit more balanced over here. But for our purposes, which is just to block surfaces in, eventually I'll do a cleanup. But for now, I think this should be okay just to see how all the surfaces transition. Okay, so I'm just going to say edge align on both sides. I know this looks ridiculous over here, but well, I'll clean it up. Okay, so I'm just going to project for now, and let's just go ahead and I'm going to trim over here, and I should probably make it edge align. The only problem is right now it's looking like that. So, well, maybe I'll just do a square. Okay. So let's go ahead and duplicate this side over here, and I'm just going to delete this one, and I'm going to, let's see, to use the blend. Hit this point over here and hit this point over here like this. Just going to make sure that the directions are good. I might have to change the angle on this because I think this might be a little bit too sharp. And the problem is, with such a sharp edge, this is not going to create the best result. So first of all, let me just do that. As you can see, all the CVs are bunched up together over here, and that's going to create a very, not the best looking transition. So, you know what? I'm just going to do this. Okay, Freeform Blend. I'm just going to connect the ends for now, and it's not going to be edge align. I'm just going to do connect ends so that the CV spacing is a little bit better, and I'm going to say default over here. And for this one over here, I'm not going to match it up. I'm just going to do a freeform blend quickly and see how it's flowing. Okay, so yeah, and I'm just going to change this bottom one to edge align. And yeah, I know the highlight is broken over here, but that is going to get fixed. And let's actually, explicit control is on. Let's try to reduce the spans forcibly. Okay, So let's do this. Instead of that, I'm going to just make this, delete the construction history on this one. Just going to make it a degree 1. And I am going to extend this one like that. There we go. Now it does, this is not natural. Actually that looks ridiculous as well. I was hoping to make this a little bit more simple, but looks like I need a little bit more refined result, and it's not, well, the highlight direction is good. It's not that bad, but I think I actually need to clean it up before I can do anything else. Now, let's just take a look. But the transition over here, I actually think it looks pretty good. So no complaint there. However, I probably want to play around with the direction of the highlight, because right now it's diving down here, but I think it actually needs to go a little bit this way. So I think that's coming up, but before I do, at least I have a good target. So I think I'm going to do a little bit more refinement here on the front before moving back onto the side. Actually, before I do it, let's actually, you know what? Let's do this first. I'm going to try to play around with the direction of the highlight first. Then I'm going to move on to the front, because at least I have a good understanding of how this is supposed to all work. And so far, the highlight, at least on the most of the surfaces, I'm pretty happy with. And I think I'm seeing a somewhat of a predictable result. So let's work on this first and move on to the front to make sure that all of these surfaces work. And then I'm going to do some more refinements. Okay. So I would say that is it for part 9. We will continue in the next tutorial, and thank you guys for watching.